up? Good evening and welcome to Mindful Live 219. I am your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is the 4th of the 5th of the 23rd of the 21st. Yeah, and it's Thursday. Thursday is Thursday Talks. You know, we jump in and we discuss whatever is discussing inside of the live. You can feel free to jump inside of the chat, inside of the live over there on TikTok. That's where we do that discussion part. And you can talk, you can bring up your topics, you can say whatever, well, not whatever you'd like, but you can bring up topics inside of the chat and we'll talk about those. It's Thursday Talks. We're chilling. Crime, well, Kramak, you know, we're always talking crime. So, and crime is a very wide-ranging topic, so I think you might have to get a little more specific. Reeve asks, what is this about flat earth? Well, Reeve, solution. Okay, Reeve, there are some people on this beautiful blue earth, globe, sphere, that believe the earth is actually flat. Nathan, what do you think about Mark Besant investigative journalism on Foster Cummings? Well, Mark Besant is good at what he does. Mark Besant is good at what he does. I'll put that out there first. I am waiting to see the conclusion of the matter, though, because as it stands so far, what seems to be the major issue is a questionably gotten loan, but it was still a loan that he still had to repay, so it's not like he was given money. Now, I'm not saying that getting access to a loan when you shouldn't isn't still corruption, but still, it's not really the main thing to bring down a ship. Let's put it that way. It's not the main thing to bring down a ship. How do we encourage and go about creating positive narratives on the ground? Liar asks. Well, I hope by what I'm doing here, positive narratives are just basically stories. It's a story with which you relate reality, with which you relate an occurrence. That's what the narrative is. A story with which you relate what is happening. And that's what I attempt to do. I attempt to create some narratives, to explain to people what's actually going on, and hopefully from that we could get some better conclusions there, create some positivity out of that. Good night, positive radiation. Pearman says, when will we become the tourism destination of the Caribbean? If by we you mean Trinidad specifically, I think maybe never. If by we you mean Tobago as part of Trinidad and Tobago, well, I'll say that's up to the Tobagonians, and it seems like many Tobagonians don't necessarily want Tobago to be particularly that ecotourism destination for the Caribbean, so I don't know if that would ever happen. Also, the genesis of crime, as Kramak says, why not go into politics? Well, what I am doing here technically is politics. Politics refers to the affairs of the people, the affairs of the people, the affairs of the polity meaning the people, and I'm talking about the affairs of the polity here. So I am technically doing politics. If you're talking about getting into governmental parties and politics, then I have no interest in that. Foster still owing on the loans. As far as I know, the loans have been, the main loan had been paid back. There hasn't been any bombshell story regarding the payback of the loan. So that's why I said it's an interesting story, but I'm not sure how heavy that would hit. I'm not sure how heavy that would hit. But as you were talking about that crime and the genesis of crime, the origins, corruption, etc. Now, I think that's a really difficult thing to get into, because you're going to have to deal with people's worldview. It's according to people's worldview. The genesis of crime may be according to someone's worldview. So if someone has a Christian worldview, a Christian ethic, the way the majority of the Western world has some kind of Judeo-Christian worldview and ethic, then the genesis of crime is the fall of mankind since the Garden of Eden. Mankind now is of a sinful nature, so crime is natural to man. If you're talking about from that perspective. If you're talking about a plainly physical perspective, then you may say the genesis of crime is selfishness of man. Man being an evolutionary creature in that case, you would have to see about your own, and seeing about your own is how you survive through evolution, how you pass down your genes. So selfishness is the very nature of man, and that would be the origin of crime. So it's according to what your view is. If your view is a leftist Marxist philosophy of it, your view of crime would be crime is caused because of lack. And the truth is, a lot of the university teaching now is of a Marxist leaning. So you hear many people talking about crime as if crime, the cause of crime is lack. So the only reason people do crime is because they don't have something. The reason someone does crime is because society is failing them in some way. Society has failed to give them enough education, enough opportunity, enough food, enough something, and that's why they do crime. That is actually a Marxist view, because the conclusion of that view basically says if you can create the society that supplies the need of the man, then you would have the perfect man. And that society, as defined by one Karl Marx, is called communist. And personally, my personal view is that communism is impossible. It doesn't work. Zisa says crime is all about morality of a people. In a country, we have many peoples where morality different, and I agree. Crime is about culture and the morality inside of that culture. There's a reason that crime is represented in subcultures. It's not like a lottery is done on the population of Trinidad and Tobago, and you pick one out of the 1.4 million, and that person is going to commit a crime today. It's not like that. 90% of the crimes would be done by one particular community, and the particular community is not Afro-Trinidadians. No, I read an editorial about that 2 days ago, something like that, that kind of explained that many times when we look at race, we discount many other factors that count into this. So the fact that you could predict crime based on subcultures tells you that it's something that is taught and carried down and passed down from generation to generation as they teach it to the next generation. So understanding that, you understand a bit where crime comes from. And what I really despise about the thinking that crime comes from lack, and because someone is missing an opportunity is why they're a criminal, what I really despise about that is it gives criminals excuses. It gives criminals excuses. You talk to so many criminals and it's always someone else's fault. Well, you know, the system so and so, and the system so and so, and boy, they don't help the black youth out here, you know, boy. Boy, them 1% is locked down everything for the black youth, you know, boy. That's why you had to hit the street, you know, boy. It's a struggle out here, you know. You know, the ghetto youth can't make an honest dollar, so you had to make it out in the road, you know. Nonsense. These people, almost all of them are lazy. It's not about inability to find a job. It's choice. Crime is a moneymaker for the elites, correct? Some people are actually born into the crime lifestyle, difficult to change. I agree. And that further reinforces what I'm saying. It's a cultural thing. We need a conversation on understanding Trinidad as a transshipment point for drug trades. That's correct. I don't deny that we are indeed a transshipment point. But you have to ask why. And the reason why isn't only a geographical reason. The reason why is a corruption reason also. It's a corruption reason also. They could have used Barbados as a transshipment point. If Trinidad and Tobago was extremely serious about keeping out that kind of activity from Trinidad, we would not have been a transshipment point. We are a transshipment point because we are in the correct spot geographically, and because we have the right amount of corruption. Crime is becoming more and more engraved into our culture. I agree. Home invasion on a defensive system. They use our morality against us. They manipulate us to prevent us from taking a firm hand against them. It's not a bad thing that we are a transshipment area. Well, if you're talking about trading, in general, trading is a good thing. That trade is a good thing. It's just that we need to be able to control the crime with that. Bro, that good money coming into the system. Well, yes, the money is coming into the system, but the problem with crime dollars. So, like, for me, I question the problems we have with making drugs illegal. I question whether making all of them legal and figuring out other ways to attempt to control them would make more sense. But the vast majority of crime, even when it makes money, okay, the security companies are making money because of robberies, but those robberies are decreasing the amount of businesses that would have remained open. And by decreasing the amount of businesses that would have been open, you are decreasing the amount of economic activity in the country, slowing down the economic growth of the country. So yes, the security company might make money. Yes, some elites are making money, but overall it damages the country nonetheless. Nonetheless, it damages the country. Laya says, we are the best facilitators and all key players have cleared indigenous bank accounts. I'm not 100% sure what you are talking about there, sir. I am not 100% certain. Yeah. So, Krimak, we're talking about crime. What's the other stage there? To me, the primary stage about this is the morality of a group. And especially when I look over in the United States. The United States is one of the prime examples for this. And they have the same problem with black people, etc., and black people being overrepresented in the violent crime statistics. They have those same issues. And to me, you look at their solutions for it, and their solutions to it are the kind of leftist Marxist solutions where the reason these people are doing crime is because of lack. Let's not punish them too hard. Let's ease up the prison sentences. Let's make things easier for them. And you see the communities self-destruct faster with these things. The excuses for crime don't work. The excuses for it don't work. These young men are living a difficult life out there. As I was telling Positive Radiation in a previous life, all of these gangsters out there, these gang members are living a very hard life, generally speaking. What many of these young men are looking for isn't an easy thing. It isn't an easy thing. And the soft patter cake, overly matriarchal tendency to, oh gosh, it's the poor guy and he missed opportunities and oh, poor thing. That's not what many of them need. Bear in mind, many of them, what they are missing in their life is fathers. They aren't missing the mother pinching their cheeks and kissing them and putting them to bed. They got that part. They miss the person telling them you cannot do that and you will not be able to do it. And that's where the line in the sand is, and you will not be able to cross that line in the sand. That's what they are missing. Captain Django says, let's give murder accused bail. I agree with that actually, Captain Django. Let me explain why I agree with giving murder accused bail. Because a murder accused person isn't a murder convicted person. And all it requires for you to be murder accused is for the police to accuse you, basically. And we already know here in Trinidad and Tobago, we're currently seeing the effects of what the police might be able and willing to do. So in a system, you always balance the power you give versus the freedom you have. You don't want to give so much power that you cut off your freedom. The problem isn't the murder accused getting bail. The problem is people on murder cases for 15, 16, 17 years. You cannot accuse a man of murder and wait 10 years to prove the case and keep him in jail for 10 years. Bear in mind, our system is innocent until proven guilty. You are innocent until they prove you guilty. So even if I have been accused of murder, according to the legal system, I am supposed to be seen as innocent. So if I am supposed to be seen as innocent, How can you put me in jail and keep me there? Ziza says this father thing is old. At some point in time you need to move on. I agree on a personal level. But I'm talking on a societal level, because apparently many of them have not moved on, and they still require that kind of patriarchal discipline. Captain Django says the police receive advice from the DPP to charge a suspect for murder, and that system cannot be gamed. The police must ask justice for a warrant, and they must provide proper evidence. And they got a warrant to go against a court order. So sorry, I don't buy that. Nathan, having both parents don't always work out in the good. It's still based on the individual. It doesn't always, but we're talking statistics here. And if I tell you single mother home makes up 90% of prisoners, and a two-parent home the others, I mean, you could say, okay, not all, but the trend is a pretty strong one to attempt to deny. Nah, bro, you just need to go. Nah, nurture as a group. Disagree a bit. Some fathers need a father. I don't deny that. Not just fathers, responsible fathers. I agree. And we need more of that in society. I think we need more of what some people deem toxic masculinity. I think that's what's lacking in society. More and more children are growing up in single mother homes. Most preschool teachers, 99% of preschool teachers are female. Probably 95-98% of primary school teachers are female. Probably 80-something% of secondary school teachers are female. By the time a child reaches to late teens, how much patriarchal, toxic masculinity has been imparted onto them? You think that why they single? Why who's single? I'm not talking, I don't know about the single part. I'm talking about crime and indiscipline in the society. That's what I'm referring to. Crime and indiscipline in the society. And I've said this statistic before. The most present parental dynamic in prisons is a single mother. And when I say this, it's sad that I have to say it, but I do say it. This is not to say that single mothers aren't important, that single mothers aren't doing year one jobs, that they aren't superheroes in their own right. I'm not taking anything away from single mothers. This isn't to say that they aren't capable of doing it. It's just presenting and establishing fact. Single mothers, the children, the boys raised by single mothers are most likely to end up in prison. The boys raised by single fathers have the same likelihood of ending up in prison as the boys raised by both parents. You all heard that? And if you doubt me, Google it. If you doubt me, Google it. Boys raised by a father alone, a single father alone, is just as likely to end up in prison as boys raised by both parents. What that tells us, if we're trying to have a discussion based on these results that we found here, what that seems to suggest is that one of the most important parts in keeping a child out of prison, out of indisciplined behavior, is father figures. A male looking over the discipline of this child. Keon Francis says, earlier I saw on Facebook a big old man ranting in jail about what gang he from. He looked like 50 years. Liar says those findings are not applicable to a Trinidad and Tobago context. You believe so, Liar? Why do you believe that? Are Trinidadians and Tobagonians not human? Are we somehow immune to needing a mother and a father? Is the tropical air a good replacement for parenting? How does that work? Reeves says it could also be due to the limited number of single father families, so there's not a lot of data on it. No, it's not due to that. There is a lot of data on it because there are a lot of single father homes. Lack of data wasn't the problem. The statistic was not lying. Why are people looking to hide from this statistic? I can tell you, I am a teacher. I can sit down in a class and I can point out probably with 95% degree of certainty the children who have a father in their life. Because we have not conducted studies along those lines of reference. Liar, you understand what studies are, okay? We have not done any studies in Trinidad and Tobago on Panadol. We use Panadol in Trinidad and Tobago. It's legal in Trinidad and Tobago based on studies done in other countries. You understand that, right? Everybody wants to be independent and prove they could raise their child alone. Pride. Trinidad need more local studies. Now that I fully agree with. We do need more. I fully agree with that. But to make it seem like studies on humans across the world don't have an impact or a say on humans in Trinidad, that seems a bit dishonest to me. Divya says it tells us that fathers need to step up. They can't be replaced by mums, aunties, and grannies. 100% Divya. They cannot be replaced. And you see, what I have noticed in this, is that because a mother is so obviously irreplaceable, the irreplaceability of a father is discounted. So, in general, we're talking generally here. Generally, if you drop people outside of a sophisticated society into the wilderness, and a child doesn't have a mother, the child will not make it through the first 5 years of life. Alex in panic, be quiet before you are muted. They literally need the mother for actual survival within the first 5 years of life. No one will deny that. No one would even think of denying that. So then why would we think of denying the necessity of a father? It beats me a bit. It beats me a bit. It really does. And we just need to import some Uganda type community values. Ziza! Whew! Look, trouble you looking for here, Ziza. You're looking for trouble there. Reeves says, yeah, but social/law related studies need at least a Caribbean research to be really applicable to us. I agree, but I would say it needs Caribbean research not to be applicable as much as to be prescriptive. So here's what I mean. So the studies from outside can tell us an accurate representation of human behavior. But with the nuances of Caribbean culture, we may need some specification if we need to understand how we change some of these things. So, for example, if the US wants to change their culture, they would have to do it one way. But if Trinidad and Tobago wants to change their culture, we cannot use the same technique that the United States uses. So, I think local studies would help in that prescriptive kind of measure. But if you're talking descriptive, I think local, foreign doesn't matter. The descriptive studies stand. They work either way. Positive Radiation says there will be an M Zone in Buku Tuesday night from 5 p.m. Topic fatherhood and parenting. I unfortunately I wouldn't be in Tobago then. That's incorrect, and you cannot mitigate without local context. How is that incorrect? Liar, liar. Jump in the live, let we talk now, boy. Jump in the live, let we actually discuss this, because what you're saying there isn't making any sense to me at all. You're saying that foreign studies cannot be descriptively accurate to locals. There's no area of study where that bears true. None. If you study human beings in Ireland and you take in consideration the situation they face, the results you got there would still be pertinent if it's a well-done scientific study to human beings in Trinidad and Tobago. You do understand our genetic variation isn't that great. Omar Singh says, I don't think parenting has too much impact on a child's life. However, the environment is the trump. But Omar, you kind of understand that you're saying the same thing there. It's like you're saying, it's nearly like you're telling me, well, rain doesn't have much impact on how a plant grows, but the water is the most important part. If the environment is the most important part, who is in charge of maintaining the entirety of a child's environment? That is literally the parent's job. Reeves says, example, there was a study done on whether TNT should stop single-sex schools and how it affects kids. But single-sex schools are a significant portion of academic culture in TNT and prestigiousness. More like the soil has more impact than the water. No. Because parents form the environment around the child. It's the parents that create the environment. The parent could literally move the child to another part in the world. Liar says, wrong again. I'll qualify it by saying a quick study was done by Ireland's secondary school kids versus Japan. I'll qualify it by saying a quick study was done with Ireland's secondary school kids versus Japan. And what did they notice, liar? What did they notice when they compared two different cultures of school children? I guess they noticed that the different cultures perform differently in school. And you know what that would mean? If that's what they found, we could take that to Trinidad, and again, it would bear true in Trinidad. Different cultures perform differently in schools. So, please join the live. Please join liar, because I'd like to understand what you are getting at there. I'm inviting you up. I'd like to understand what you're getting at clearly there, because maybe you aren't explaining good in the limited text box, but it's not adding up to me. Studies done foreign have no descriptive value on locals. So how does university work? Are all our university courses idiosyncratic to Trinidad and Tobago? Captain Django says parents is just one of the variables in the overall child rearing equation. Okay, Captain Django. I can't remember the exact thing, the exact number, but it was something like upwards 80% of a child's success rate can be predicted by parenting. To me, people make it seem like parenting is too small a part. To me, parenting is 99.9% of it. Almost all of the other parts that people say is important in rearing a child has to do with the parents. Okay, the child's best friends. Well, the parents can control that. Okay, the child's diet. Well, the parents can control that. Well, what the child views on television, the child's entertainment. Well, the parents control that. The genetics, the child's genetics, as in what genes the child has. Well, you know who controls that? The parents also. I think parenting is 99.9. Umar says, for example, 4 kids growing up in the same home has completely different mindset. That happens sometimes. But it's so strange. As I said, I am a teacher. How many of you are familiar with how many siblings go to the same school? How often, if any of you are around educational institutions, you're privy to some families and how they perform in school? How often is it that you have a family where all the children are generally above average performers? If one is above average, generally the others are, one might be really above average and the others are just barely above average. But you don't often find one where you have above average, drop dead low average. That doesn't generally happen. As I said, I think some of you need to teach some classes with me. And you could go through from the students never having met the parents, and you would be amazed how much you could tell about parenting from just encountering the child. Reeve says, I'm gonna have to disagree there. Omar Singh says, but how much can the parent control? Parenting is important, but influence is a drug. I agree, Omar Singh. I agree. And that's why I believe parenting people need to be more serious with their parenting. You see, this idea that you could give a 12-year-old a phone and allow them to access the internet, where billions of other humans can talk to them for hours at end during the day with zero input from you. You have no idea how dangerous that is. And then in 3 years, when your child is out of your control, you're saying, well, you make the child and you can't make them mine. No. You made the child and you allowed the internet to make their mind. Umar Singh, I believe parents can control a lot. And I find it interesting that I've noticed this. As I said, I'm a teacher. I teach privately. Most of my lessons are private lessons. Most of my classes are private. I taught public for a very short period of time. And something that I notice, wealthier parents do not subscribe to the idea that they cannot make their child's mind. It's very often the poorer parents who act like they have no say in what their child does ultimately. The owners of the social media companies do not allow their children on the social media companies. Do not allow their children on the social media apps. And then the users would allow their children there and be shocked, and be absolutely shocked that they turn out horribly. Omar Singh says rich parents are just better at hiding the stuff their kids do. Incorrect, Omar Singh, because you could look at the performance of children in school if you're looking for an objective standard. The rich parents didn't pay CXC to give their children more ones. The rich parents didn't put money in their child's brain and it increased their IQ. I live in a community. I look at the poor parents that allow their children to come from school and immediately take off their shirt, take off their pants, and in their boxers and vest, run the roads up and down for the next 4 hours till dark. While a wealthy parent demands that child stay inside and study their work. So how come the wealthy parent is able to make their child do homework for 2 hours when they get home, and the poor parent it's just impossible for them? Rich parents give their children better access to education from early. That is true. But you realize something. As I've said before, it's a cultural thing, because it's not just about money. There are some There are some poorer parents. There are some poorer parents who have a different culture. So you see it very often, at least in the United States, but very often with immigrant families. Some of them are dirt poor, but they have a different culture. You go into the ghetto communities and okay, you see 5 houses where the children are running the road, but one house, the door is closed and the gate is closed. And the children in the road let you know that Matthew inside of the house, he's have to ask his mother to come outside and play. Nah, he's can't come outside and play. His mother and father tell him he had to ask to come outside and play. And then, shocker, absolute shocker. 15 years down the road, Matthew has pulled himself and his family out of that situation, and the other 5 who were running the road are still running the road, and they're watching Matthew in his car and the bad talking Matthew like, you see, he feel big. Watch how he feel big now. Watch how he feel he's... Lana Polano says, but there are some parents that are not rich that teach their children how important education is. Exactly what I was speaking about there. Lana Divya says, fathers and sons playing cricket and football with each other. Correct tradition is killing poor people. Bad tradition is killing poor people. Horrible tradition is killing poor people. And you could see it from the wealth level with some poor people. You could see it from the ethnic level with some racial groups. In the United States, the example I love to point out, because some people say in the United States it's racism. It's the systemic racism against the black people that have the black people where they are. Okay. Africans from Nigeria, they're blacker than American blacks. Literally in skin color. They have a foreign accent. They have a language barrier. Their culture is different. They eat weird food. They might smell a little different too. But Nigerians earn more than native white Americans. How come this black group could do it and this black group cannot? What is it? Are they only racist against native black Americans? Is there no racism against black Africans? You know, Caribbean black people go to the United States, they also earn more than white Native Americans. Isn't that a strange thing? Why does that happen? Why? Elobeck says, I agree parents have a great part to play, rich or poor. Simply what I'm saying. Simply what I'm saying. Rich or poor, regardless of place in society, parenting is a big part of it. So if you are not yet a parent, one of the most important things you could decide is who you are going to be a parent with. If parenting is so important, before you even reach that stage, the person who is going to be the next half of this parenting team with you needs to be one of the most important decisions you have. And you're looking at this person with that in mind. Oh gosh, Patha Dog, let's not go down that road. Native born Americans, Patha Dog. Let's not go down that road. No one is native to America, just by the way. If we want to go back to that historical line and bad talk the white people that much, the white people kill natives, but the natives killed natives before them. So, I mean, who is native? Lana Polano says, and if you already make the mistake, you have to step up and do 2 parts. That's correct. And that's why I said at the very beginning, this isn't meant as a knock on single mothers either. I mean, if you're already in the position, what you're going to do? Doom your child to prison? No, because all children raised by single mothers do not end up in prison. That's why you need to understand how to interpret statistics. Okay, yes, the majority of children, the majority of men in prison come from single parent homes. But the majority of men raised by single parents don't end up in prison. So the majority of single parents could raise a child well enough so that they don't end up a criminal. So it's not a knock saying that they have to end up there. Omar Singh says oppression falls between a huge bracket. It can impact children so negatively. I believe even good parenting cannot counter oppression. Oppression has so much characteristics. Omar Singh, I understand why you would believe that, but actually historical anthropological proof does not bear that out to be reality. Dr. Thomas Sowell has a book on this. He goes through history and countries and cultures, researching oppressed minorities. And a very interesting tendency he found was that oppressed minorities almost always outperform their oppressor majorities. The Chinese in Singapore, the Jews in Europe. There are many examples of it. I can't remember which one of his books it is, but you could Google that. Thomas Sowell, oppressed minorities, performance against majorities. And there's actual research on this. So yes, oppression has a strong impact, but really and truly, if you have strong parenting, strong morals, a strong cultural backing, what oppression usually does is it invigorates and strengthens that backing. I mean, unless they actually literally kill you out. That's a whole other ball game. I mean, if they're killing you out, they're killing you out literally. But if we're talking about just, systemic difficulties, barring murder, usually those oppressed minorities perform better. So, no, again, it is the parenting. It is the parenting. And I think as a parent, if you have the mindset that, of course, that once given the opportunity, that's why I say barring murder or something like that, if they literally lock you up, there's nothing you can do. But as a parent, if you start off with the mentality that I make this child but I can't make the mine, to me, then parenting is pointless. What's the point of parenting? Best we do like snakes. We lay our eggs. How they happen? They happen. We slid off into the darkness after we lay our eggs. Parenting would be pointless if you could make the child but you couldn't make their mind. You can't make the child's mind. You can't do that. There's a reason, by and large, polite parents make polite children. There's a reason, by and large, people with criminal backgrounds, you look into their history and there was some disturbance in the parenting level. There's a reason for that. Captain Django says parenting plus culture plus experience plus school plus peer pressure plus genes plus chance, etc. equal child. And I agree with most of that, Captain Django, but this is the point I'm making to read your list there. Parenting, culture. The culture that you grow your child in is parenting. As a parent, you could choose to grow your child up as a Christian, as a Muslim, as a Hindu, as an atheist, as a Baptist, as a Shango, as an Orisha, and whichever one you choose affects the culture the child grows up in. Experience, okay. You allow your child to go or don't go places. You determine the freedom level that your child gets. So a large portion of the experience that your child experiences is dependent on what you allow them to experience. School, same. Peer pressure, same. I remember, and this is something that sounds strange to some people, but I remember in my primary school days, my parents knew all of my friends. All of the people I considered my friends, my parents knew them. And like, at least in my family, my parents were very serious about how you use the word friend. There's a word called classmate and schoolmate. You sure that's your friend? Is that your friend? Like, what are parents doing? How do you not know your child's friends? Vivian says if parents were to be held accountable for the doings of their child, would that make anything better? I've said that many times. I am a firm believer in that. The example I've said ad nauseum, some people who have taken in enough of the life would have heard this example before, but I'm sure some didn't, is that if your dog hurts someone else, you are responsible for the action, and your child is not your dog by any means. But I would say you have more control of your child's behavior than you have your dog, or at least you should, because a dog is a wild animal. A child is supposed to be, at least in grooming, an intelligent human being. You're supposed to be held responsible for those actions. Lala says, so where does school culture and climate fit into this whole equation? Just asking. School culture is created by the children that go to the school. So if you put children of a certain discipline repeatedly in a school, that kind of discipline is the kind of culture you would create out of the school. Climate, that's a very interesting question. I don't even know how deep you want to go on that, but climate does have an effect on upbringing and culture. Yes, it does. That's how I'd answer that. Cardell says very much so. Alana Polano says, exactly, I tell my son every day that's your friend or classmate. Pathadog says people just lazy and preoccupied and BS. Joe says that will slow down the madness tremendously. Kilvon says, I don't believe in North Korean style collective punish, but there should be a way to hold parents accountable. And in mind, I'm talking as long as the child is a child. And here's why I believe there could even be legal reason for this, because children are not held responsible for even some of their criminal actions, because they are seen as not being of the right mind to yet understand all the consequences of their actions. So they are not held responsible. And to me, in that case, if the person cannot be held responsible themselves, then it must be the parent. But if you're an adult, I mean, if you see 20-something-year-old people out there doing crime, don't go looking for their parents. That's not what I meant. Not at that level. I'm talking about at a lower level there. Really? And the teachers and administration? Liar. The Teaching Service Commission. Good night, Brenzo. The Teaching Service Commission, liar, is responsible for hiring teachers for pretty much all the schools in the country. Many of the teachers in prestige schools didn't apply to teach in the prestige school. The culture of the school is more often created by perpetuating similar students coming over and over, and the alumni institutions that try to keep perpetuating that culture. It's not really the teachers and administrators. Believe it or not, it really isn't. I think about this, liar. There are some of the best lessons teachers in Trinidad teach in junior sex or senior sex. They're east and west now, but you all understand what I'm saying. Some of the best lessons teachers, people, NAP students, SAG students, convent students come looking for this teacher. Come looking for this teacher to teach them, because their reputation as a teacher is so well known. And that teacher teaches every day inside of one of those not prestige schools. And it's not that the teacher teaches poorly inside of those schools. Sometimes some of those teachers I know personally some of those teachers that give free lessons to the students inside of the school. Free! And many of the students don't even come. That's the culture of the students that come to the school. That's how you create those cultures. Think about this. The culture of junior sex in Trinidad and Tobago was such that you could have gone to a junior sec in the east and gone to a junior sec in the south, and the culture would have been pretty similar, while having widely varying teachers and administrators. How do you think that is? I'll tell you my belief. As I said, it's the students, and by taking students from one specific group and one specific level, you're going to kind of create a more homogenized group. You understand what I mean? It's a certain kind of group. Pat that dog says full dance is a thing now, eh, boy? Sad. Yeah. How could you boast about being fully danced? You must really be fully danced to boast about being fully danced. A lot of parents don't believe in education either. They're just sending their kids there for style. That's true. That's very true. Many parents don't believe in it. Nasredna said I had a 16-year-old that had a dual lifestyle. He died attempting to rob a casino. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to put this. I'll put it this way. At 16 years old, there was no reasonable possible way for me to rob a casino at night without my parents knowing. Like, how would I be out at night with that? It's not something that could happen regularly like that. And I'm not saying that it's impossible for a child to do things that the parent isn't aware of. I'm not saying that. But I'm talking in a generalized setting. Generally speaking, if you parent well, your child comes out well. That's just the truth of it. To try to say anything else literally doesn't make sense. If you parent well, the child comes out well. Where was the person who was really disagreeing with me earlier about the relevance of Trinidad, of foreign studies in Trinidad? Why didn't you join? Why didn't you join for the discussion? What about the young man that was involved in the heist at Pennywise? His parents was baffled. I don't buy that for 1 minute, because that young man had multiple pictures with those very same other young men in... like, come on. The young man had a social media. You could have seen the young man's social media. If the parents were baffled, it's because they weren't paying attention. Some children don't stand a chance because of their parents. I feel sorry for those kids. Me too, Divya, me too. Kim Oliver says children just run away, go parties, beach, not rob casinos. Check the background. I'll ask, in your opinion, does grades determine a child's future? I wouldn't use the word determine, but grades can point in a direction. They can point in a direction. Now, it's very possible to get poor grades all through the entirety of high school and change your life in your 20s. That's very possible. Many people have done it. It's not impossible. So it doesn't determine it. But generally speaking, what high grades says it's not the grades itself, it's what the high grade says. Generally speaking, what a high grade says is that, one, this person has some cleverness. 2, this person is willing and able to apply themselves. And 3, they have enough discipline to pay attention, remember, and bring back to remembrance when needed. So the personality traits, as it were, the behavioral traits that are signaled by high grades kind of signal for success later on. Yeah, Kevon, they are a decent indicator. Nisi says, Nathan, I grew up in a 2-parent household, but one of my brothers gave a lot of trouble growing up. Yeah, I know of some 2-parent households like that. That's why I said it's not a perfect thing. It's not a perfect thing. And remember, it's something like 90% of the men in, not 90, I think it's less than 90% of the men in prison come from single mother homes. But the others come from 2-parent homes too. There are people in prison from 2-parent homes. So it's not, just as I said, it's not that single mothers cannot raise children, and it's not that 2 parents are magically going to always make it happen. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm talking about probabilities. Cardell says, Nathan, the boy from the Pennywise heist, showed his parents 2 faces. His parents, I don't want to insult them. I'm not insulting them, and I understand they would be grieving for their son nonetheless. But if your son has a social media where his other face is obviously apparent and you have no idea about that, then I'll say you weren't paying attention. That's what I would say. Because his social media kind of told the second face. I know parents like that. There are some parents, two parents, the two parents are in the household, but they stick their heads in the sand. They could see things going on around them. They see their son going and coming strange times. They're seeing it happening, but they're pretending like they can't tell. You know, I have no clue anything is going on here. Like, come on. Joe says I had a relative that was raised well and ended up a criminal. I didn't say it's impossible. I didn't say it's impossible. All right, any further questions or comments, people? It's Thursday. Thursday Talks. We're talking any topic in the live is what we talk about. Any topic we bring or the live decides to bring up. I wonder if anyone is over there on the YouTube live taking it in or commenting. Let's see over there. What's all those books is about? The Dark Knight? Those books are about English. I'm joking. But it's a various, it's books. There are various books. I mean, there are a wide-ranging set of books there. Do you agree with the shutdown in July? What shutdown in July? Do you believe in the saying school isn't for everyone? No. No. I don't believe in that saying. I believe that the present schooling system we have doesn't work ideally for everyone. I believe that. But I believe every human being would benefit from schooling. Schooling could happen at home, schooling could happen in a private institution, but every human would benefit from schooling. So I think schooling is for everyone, but the schools that we have right now, the way how the system is set up, everyone doesn't get maximum benefit out of it. You ever read the 48 Laws of Power? I feel like I did. I feel like I may have. I've read some books that I've forgotten, so I feel like I may have. I thought you were talking about flat eight rounded tonight. Well, the topic was dragged away. Nathan, tell me something. Is it that subjects are chosen for the children now for CXC? Not to my knowledge. It's according to the school. Some schools kind of pressure you into certain directions, but no, it's still supposed to be up to the child. If you were to live in a country besides Trinidad, what would it be? I don't know. I really don't know. I guess it would have to be English speaking. It would have to be a democracy, by and large. Like, if you're talking live, not visit, if you're talking live, like I want to thrive with my family, I may look to go to one of the most racist, conservative states in the United States, where there are low taxes and liberal gun laws, cheap land, buy a massive ranch, and live there. If you're talking live, I wouldn't say Canada. Canada is going down to communism side. Quick. They're going down to the communism side. I no thanks on that Canada offer. No thanks. I mean, Canada has a lot of nice wide open land, which is something I like, but I don't like Canada's style of governance. How do you deal with very smart boys who can't focus in class? Divya asks. Divya, that was me. And I think that's one of the big problems with the public education system, because very smart boys in class are going to have a hard time, because very smart boys in class, they're going to pick up the topic very fast, then they're going to lose interest, and they're going to be bored, they're going to be hyperactive, they're going to be distracted, they're going to be distracting. That's a difficult thing. I would say if you have a very smart boy, maybe public school, at least at that primary level, may not be ideal for them. I would say find an institution somewhere, someone who would fit their ability much better. Just so you know, I do run Mindful Education. You can find us over on Instagram, mindful_education, mindful spelled with 2 L's there. And we offer homeschooling. We do homeschooling classes, and we do learning pods. Learning pods, which is basically a group style homeschooling with very small groups, 6 students or less. And we offer those from preschool go all the way up to CXC. We offer those classes, learning pods and preschool classes offered. So that's actually what I kind of recommend for children like that. And to me, looking into the future of the public education system, I see our public education system crumbling more and more and more. Because the discipline of the majority of children is dropping. That's just factual. And schools, public schools, could only work with a certain level of discipline, because you have to have enough discipline for an adult to use words and control a whole group of children. I had wasted my parents' money thinking I'm too smart for this school thing. Wow. In what context? Kevin says boys need to be challenged more and need more physical play. Yes, and schools, at least modern schools, seem to be created to work against boys. Schools are at least modern schools in the modern context, are often created in what is an ideal young girl learning technique. That classroom model, you sit down there and you repeat lessons and you talk, and it's verbal exchange. That's much more ideal for a girl. Young boys, that's just not really it. And here's the thing with smart boys and hyperactive boys. School is 8 hours. It doesn't require 8 hours to teach, especially a smarter boy, a smarter child, but we're talking about boys. It doesn't require 8 hours to teach them the lessons planned for the day. The lessons planned for the day could be taught sometimes in less than 2 hours, sometimes in 1 hour. The 8 hours of school is to allow parents to go to the Industrial Revolution and go in a factory and work their job. That's what the 8 hours of school was for. So, trapping a child in 8 hours of school where they are frustrated and are not intellectually stimulated is a frustrating experience for a child. Kevin says, in my family, we are not even interested public secondary school. My son will not be going there. Neither me, sir. Neither me. No one in my family goes to public school. I had some nephews in public school that were pulled out. It's not the same system that it was before, and the system before barely worked. Is it really necessary to spend 5 to 7 years in the high school system alone? No, it is not. The math syllabus from Form 1 to Form 5 could be taught to a sharp student in probably a summer. These things are stretched out for multiple reasons. One of the reasons, as I said, they're stretched out to allow parents to go to work. That's what it is. To allow parents to go to work. That's part of it. And also, you have to bear in mind, the public education syllabus curriculum has to meet the lower average. The lower average. That's what you have to meet. If you go too fast, you'll cut out too many people. So they're kind of trying to go at the lower average, so that's what they're going with. KFC Tobago says, what about the value of social interaction? Well, that's the most difficult part of homeschooling, and that's where being a parent comes in. You have to think about those things, and those things aren't difficult to actually counter. If you belong to a religious institution, if you belong to a church, if you join a football club, you join a cricket club, you join a swimming club, you join some athletic club, there are so many clubs. There are homeschooling groups that have meetups, and that way, actually, what might actually happen on the social interaction side, as a parent, you may actually have more control over who your child's friends are, versus throwing them in the public education system and hoping that your child decides to be friends with the better students in the system there. KFC Tobago says, think you're not placing enough emphasis on the non-academic value of high schools. Non-academic value like what, KFC Tobago? Non-academic value like what? Social interaction? As I said, there are a myriad of clubs around the country that would allow much better social interaction, much healthier social interaction. I'm sorry, but for my child, for my little princess, I don't consider it a positive social interaction to go to a school where on a random day a group of students could be pummeling you in a corner. That doesn't seem like a positive social interaction to me. For many children, school is the first and sometimes only place they encounter the level of violence that they encounter there. I had a good school experience. For me, my school days were good. By and large, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my school days. But it was only after I finished school, and I spoke to some people who went to school with me around the same time as me, and they spoke about their school experience. And for some children, school was 7 years of hell, of torture that did not benefit them. That did not benefit them. I don't buy it. You can't convince me that a child going to school, losing their money every day, getting tapped up every day, being called all assortment of insulting, degrading, crass, obscene names, that's a social interaction positive. Sorry, I don't buy that. I think I could find better social interaction for my child. Thank you. And as I said, these things weren't a problem before. Public education schools started in the 20th century. How did people learn how to socially interact for the thousands of years mankind was on the earth before that? A closely knit after-school sport group is a bit like a bubble, not true reflection of society. I don't want a true reflection of society for my child. I am sorry. A true reflection of society has rapists. A true reflection of society has pedophiles. A true reflection of society has abusers. There are violent people. There are murderers. There are bandits. Are you telling me that in order for my child to have proper social interaction, I need to get the right balance of rapists and pedophiles to, expose my child to at a nice young age, so, they really understand the real society? Mark Anthony Pierce says it's the home and community of the children. Those are learned behaviors. I believe that. KFC Tobago says there's positives to gain from teens being exposed to the negatives of society. Like what? What are those positives, KFC Tobago? And you can teach someone about the negative without throwing them in the negative. I'm sorry, but to me, that sounds like, I don't mean this to be insulting, but it sounds like a poverty mentality. I don't see any wealthy parent telling their child things like that. You can be taught about those things. I don't need my child to put their hand in the fire, feel their flesh singe and bubble under the flame for them to know that fire burns. What about a child having street smarts? I think that's not necessarily a good thing. I think that's not necessarily a good thing. Now, I don't want my child to be street stupid at the same time, and I think you could go and travel the country with your child. You jump in a maxi, jump in a taxi, teach your child how to travel and things like that. You could do these things. You don't need school to teach your child how to learn the streets. You could do those things all on your own. But I think sometimes we could over exalt things that are a result of suffering. So, anybody knows what a corn is? A callus on your hand, a corn on your hand, a callus on your hand. You get corns and calluses on your hand from doing hard, laborious things. Working hard with your hand, that's how you get a corn. Do you think it's a good thing if your child has a hand that has been nearly calcified by corn? Do you think that's a good thing? Do you want that for your child? I don't. I don't. Here's what I might prefer. We could go, we do construction, we go on a job site, you hold the shovel for today, you have a day on the construction site. You feel what that manual labor feels like. You got the corn that day. You feel what the corn feels like. But I don't need to throw you in that day in, day out for you to have a calcified, hard, street smart hand to go through life. I don't want that. I don't want that. The thing is, I believe that some struggles are necessary for children. But that's where good parenting comes in. Which of those struggles are the necessary struggles? I think struggling to figure out problems, to figure out logical problems, struggling to navigate relationships. And you won't be navigating those relationships with your child. They would have relationships with their teammates that they would have to navigate. Those are struggles that you should not interfere with. Physical struggles. Let them go through physical struggles. You learn to play football, you get an injury, you get a cut. Yeah, those are struggles. Going to a school where a child could stab you. Sorry, not a struggle for my baby. KFC Tobago says your examples are speaking to extremes. The deaf are very bad schools, but the average school would be a reflection of the average society, which a kid has to learn to manage. Do the wealthiest people send their children to average schools? And why do you think that is KFC Tobago? I am not saying that the wealthiest people do the things that are best. I'm not saying that. But I'm asking you, the people who have the resources to do anything they want, do they send their children to the average schools? Why do you think that is? I could tell you why that is. Because the public school was created, engineered, designed to create workers. They're designed to make good workers. You could go back through the history. I spoke about this before, but when public education came to the western side of the world, it was brought to this side of the world by the American robber barons, the industrialists in the United States. Those guys brought the public education system from Europe over to the United States. Why? Because they wanted to educate their factory workers. They wanted their factory workers to get a general uniform. What's going on? What's going on? They wanted their factory workers. Parenting done right. They wanted their factory workers to get a general uniform education and learn the same thing. It was about creating workers. But then obviously, the men who wanted the schools there to create the workers didn't send their children to those schools. Why? Because they wanted their children to lead the industries. And some of those schools didn't teach that kind of thing. So, I am sorry. I do not want my child to be the average of society. And I think I can teach my child about how society functions without dropping them unprotected into the public education system. Kim Oliver says, so the idea of parenting to have better children went out the door, so get with the average. Exactly. I'm sorry, but that my aim isn't for average. My aim isn't for that. And I understand learning society and the benefit you get to learning society inside of those schools. But I think you can learn society outside. So I know people who might be in certain positions. How about 1 week my child spends with a friend of mine in a marketing company? They have a week in marketing with an adult supervising them, an adult, and they spend a week in the marketing industry learning from daddy friend. Next week, I send them, I know somebody who is in manufacturing. I send them there. You're telling me that interacting with adults around the world, around the country, isn't going to give them a more solid representation of reality than interacting with children? Here's the thing why I disagree with what you're saying there. It has been kind of clearly established now that homeschool children communicate way better. Why? Because homeschool children follow their parents around. They are with their parents when their parents goes to do the groceries. They are with their parents when their parents does the market shopping. They are with their parents when they discuss issues with adults out there. They understand the working of the world faster than a child growing up in a bubble. You're calling homeschooling interacting with real adults in the real world a bubble, while actually school is a bubble. School doesn't teach you reality. Reality isn't that you have a consequence-free playground where you freely go and everyone takes care of you. That's not how it works. That's not reality. I think the problem we are facing right now, so we're seeing a failure to launch issue with millennials. Failure to launch meaning millennials are well into their 30s and aren't doing things that previous generations were doing when they were 22. We are having a failure to launch problem. Why? Because millennials at 25 think they are still children because they spent all their time supervised in educational institutions. Anytime a millennial gets a problem, they want to call an authority figure because there must be a principal or a dean somewhere. Here, where's the dean? Where's the principal to see? No. This is the real world. You have to figure out how to solve this on your own. But the politicians love that because now we could have all those septuagenarians going for election again and again and again and again and saying that those millennials, them young people and them not ready yet, you know. Them young people and them too immature, you know. We can't have them. We can't have them with their old selves. They love that. They love that. Oh, you need us to keep taking care of you. Stay in school longer, son. Son, stay in school longer. COVID could not have happened without this generation. I agree. We are institutionalized generation. All right, people, it's 11. If there are no further comments or questions, I'm going to say hi to baby girl there and tell you all good night. Any further comments or questions? If not, I will bid you all good night. I hope you were educated, informed, or entertained. That's all I have for now. This has been The Mindful Life. I am Nathan Springer. I am Nathan Springer. Thank you guys for joining me. I enjoy doing this. It's fun. Subscribe to me over on YouTube, Nathan Springer. Over there, you can follow Mindful Education over on Instagram if you are interested in such things. We currently have about 2 or 3 spaces in an English and Math CXC pod. If you are interested in that, and this CXC pod is not every day, maybe like once per week. It's nearly like a lessons class, but we're aiming at a more homeschooling style. So we have like 2 or 3 spaces in that. The class is going on anyway, but if you know anyone interested in that, feel free to hit us up. All right, people, laters. I will see you guys again for the next Mindful Live session, which is going to be tomorrow, Friday evening around that 9:30 p.m. time. And if ever I am not here, you can join my Discord server. You can find that on my TikTok profile. You will see a little Discord link there. You click that, join the server. And if ever I miss, I'm in there. I'll tell you why. And if I'm missing, join the server. And I will see you guys later. Hold it down. Stay safe. Peace out, people. Ladies.